So we're going to start to work with the end of World War II. Following World War II, the United States and Soviet Union emerged as rival superpowers. This rivalry led to a period known as the Cold War. During the first 15 years of the Cold War, 1945 to 1960, the threat of communism presented many different challenges in the United States. You guys did this, a whole bunch of the Cold War stuff that we, last year in 10th grade, that we have to go over, but we have to start adding in the American perspective. So look through, just take a minute and look through all the different documents. Document 1, political cartoon. Document 2 is a telegram. 2B, there you go. 3, something there, witness to history, whatever. Document 4, another bunch of writing. Document 5, same thing. So just take a look at all of them. Now, this is what? Probably the third or fourth time we've done this over here on the board. Okay? If our standard scale is what? What's at the bottom? Standard scale is 0. And what's at the top? Standard scale. 10. Thank you, Lisa. And then what's in the middle?
5.
5. There we go again. And does anybody remember what I call this? Besides the interpretation or point of view or perspective scale, it's basically an arguability scale. So if 0 represents the least, as we know, we got nothing, and 10 represents the most, over here, the things that are found over here are the least arguable. So when we think about that, what of the 3 different types of documents are the least arguable? Does anybody remember from what we've done in class before? What type of documents are the least arguable? What class that we take all the time, what? Well, what kind of facts are the least arguable?
Journals?
Journals can be argued because the person could be lying.
Scientific facts.
What is usually in scientific facts that make it least proven what? No, opinions are always argued. Well, what class do you take
History, no.
that
Science.
only determines what's right and what's wrong? Math.
Yeah.
Over here, the least arguable documents are the ones that are math-based. And what? We already saw one. The chart. What document was the chart?
Document 2B.
2B. So math-based documents are the ones are least arguable. Okay? And in this case, we have an example of one in this. So what's our first example? You said, Jesus, it's a chart. What are other examples of math-based documents that we do all the time in history class? Besides charts, what are the other examples of math-based documents? Timelines. Let's try and get at least one more, so we have 3, because you know I hate even numbers.
Graphs.
Graphs. And what's the big one, unfortunately, that we're missing? So I got to go into number 4. The one that has scale, the one that has direction, the one that has names.
Maps?
There you go, maps. And you guys love to put these down in your DBQs. Why? It's hard to argue when you say, in 1935, X did this. It shows it on a chart. Can the reader argue with you other than to say you're a liar? No. It gets real easy. So one of the things, math-based documents are least arguable, but also at the same time, this is really why you guys love it. You guys have all this already in your notebook at least twice. You guys don't like to write a lot, and you love these because they're easy, usually easier to figure out. And two, you don't have to write a lot about them to prove your point to the reader. When you tell them in 1935, 27 million Americans didn't have a job. Okay, here's the chart that proves it. What are you going to say? Liar, liar, pants on fire? So then at the other end, where we have the 10, this is the most arguable.
Political cartoon.
Yeah, but what's the overall category?
Theories.
No. Overall category.
Idiots.
Yeah, they're all included in that. But when you're talking about the most arguable, most of the time, it's the stuff that people don't get right away, and somebody else has to explain them to you, or everybody has their own interpretation.
Beaches.
You have this class in school, you're only required to take one half-a-year class in this class, and you get to fool around. Sometimes with paint and clay. These are your art-based documents are most arguable. And which one is represented by that in this DBQ? The political cartoon right there at the beginning. Now here's the problem. The reason why I gave you guys this DBQ from 06 is that because in the last 5 or 6 years, as you know, we have put in that Common Core. Common Core has eliminated a lot of times them putting in charts and artwork into the DBQ and have given you fewer documents but more to read to find the stuff, which, you know, for the most part, most of you guys don't like to read unless it's something that you want to read. Okay? This, as you know, I think is a disservice because I want you to be able to interpret all of these things. So what, besides this one, what was our example that we used in that one? What's our example that you just gave me? Political cartoons. Political cartoons. What are some other things? Think of the P's. Think of all the P's that you can talk about with art.
Portrait.
Paintings, portraits. And I usually call them the P's. What's another P?
Pottery.
Photos. You could do pottery. Photos. Pictures. You could go on and on with a bunch of P's. But what are the ones that everybody usually forgets? The ones that you actually talked about in 9th grade as part of your 8 features of civilization. Once you had art, you had the other one. What was the other A when you did the 8 features of civilization?
Art.
Begins with an A.
Sure.
Not agriculture.
Architecture.
Architecture. And when you did, especially, hopefully that's spelled right, and when you did, especially the Renaissance, and you got into looking at the art of the Renaissance, what's the one that everybody forgets?
Oh, no.
Also in art class,
Sculpture.
sculpture. Okay. So right there, you have the 2 biggest ends of the spectrum. And what's in the middle? What is the one in the middle? The one that, yeah, some of it is like opinion based, that's easy to argue, and the other one is really factual. What kind? Yeah. So what do we call books in social studies class? I'm putting this up here.
Textbook?
Text. Text-based documents. They're right in the middle. Now, by the way, which ones are over here? Which text documents are almost factual?
Little journal and
Diaries.
Diaries could be no, because it's still a person's opinion. Which ones? You guys do it all the time. Some of you even have them at home.
social knowledge.
That are almost all facts. Almanacs. You have the
Dictionary.
First of all, yeah, dictionary is almost all facts. It's got the words of your thing. That's a good one. But you guys get these every time you buy a product. Begins with an M. You got one when you had your phone. They didn't tell you just fool around with it. They say, go look at this. The manual.
But you said it starts with an N.
He said an M. I even wrote it.
And
All those over there. And by the way, sorry, I had it reversed. You guys might want to stop that.
Just redo it, yeah.
Over here that are least arguable are the almanacs.
and little manuals.
I wrote them in and manuals. Stuff like that. There you go. Spell person thing. And over here that are most interpretive is what she's wearing around her head.
Music?
Music. What else? You do it in English class allegedly for a little while.
Poetry.
You do.
So sometimes you're supposed to have a poetry unit.
You did?
Yeah, we did.
You weren't here that week.
Oh.
Oh.
And most of the time in the middle are all those things that we get in class. Sometimes we'll get a national anthem in social studies. Sometimes we'll get a song. Sometimes we'll get a poem that we have to interpret and try to infer what the author said. Okay? And right here, everything that we want to do right here is to try and move all of our text-based stuff from everywhere over to 0 so that the reader has less of a chance to argue with our thesis or what we're writing. What do we use? What's the easiest vehicle for us to use? The author's exact words, which we call what? Quotes. The easiest way to transfer, to get people to not argue with our ideas, is to quote the author's work. Can you quote an art-based document? No. You can tell me what are the things that you can't argue with even in an art-based document. The 4 things, or at least 3 of them. Can't argue with if it's sitting there on the nameplate. Who created it?
The title.
What they called it? And when they did it. Okay? And all of those things that we take into account help us to make sure that when we get all our stuff down on the piece of paper, on the slice of paper, and you write it to me, I'm going to read it and say, all right, there's nothing I can say that's going to argue with this document that's been given to me. And that's our whole goal when we do this. All right? Questions or problems? What is the first thing that we have to identify? What do we always identify?
The title.
No, we identify the individual or the event or the issue. Okay? So let's identify the issue here. What is this issue that you see up there? You see what kind of bird is that?
Vulture.
And what's a vulture? What do we know a vulture usually does?
Circle around their prey.
Circle around, not their prey, they're usually what? Already dead. They're scavengers. So right now they're saying that communism is a scavenger, it's a vulture carrying chaos. And what's the chaos got in his hand?
Wrench.
What kind of wrench? It's a very specific term. But you guys are actually too young to understand this because we don't use this term anymore. Has anybody ever heard the term somebody threw a monkey wrench in it?
Oh, no.
It means that it got screwed up. Okay? So what they're saying is this vulture that is a scavenger is bringing a baby that's chaos and it's going to throw a wrench into every idea that we have. This is communism, doing all of this stuff. Okay? And at the bottom you have Dr. U.S. Congress. So step on it, Doc. It's implying that it's a what?
It's in a rush to get to what?
It's in a rush, and it's in an R word between communism and the U.S. It's in a race to get where?
Western Europe.
To get to Western Europe. Does anybody remember in the class for instant extra credit what we called the rebuilding, the U.S. supported rebuilding of Western Europe at the end of World War II? It's called the Marshall Plan. Adrian, was it on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah.
That was the economic rebuilding of Europe with the help of the United States. This is Western Europe. So what does this DBQ actually say?
The U.S. is trying to get to Western Europe before communism.
Right, because we don't want Western Europe to become communism now at the end of World War II. Everybody else is starting to go communist because of the Soviet Union. This is our fear. This is why we're in a race to build. So we're identifying an individual. In this case, there's not really an individual. The event is what?
The race to Western Europe.
The rebuilding of Western Europe. And the issue is what?
The spread of communism.
The spread of communism. Good job in that. So then the next thing we have to do is we address, if we were to write about this, we address the time period, either in numbers or a label. So what would be the numbers that we're talking about?
1947.
The end of the 1940s, or the label could be what, Pilar? And the same idea. Instead of the end of the 1940s, we can just say the end of World War II. Okay? We're addressing the time period. Okay? So now we're well on our way that if we were to analyze this political cartoon, and I would say, analyze political cartoon, hand in a slice of paper, I'm going to give you a grade for it. Okay? We did the first thing, we did the second thing, and what's our last thing? That we always try and do in political cartoons, and it's the same idea that we try to project when we're creating an introduction. We want to any of these things ring a bell? We want to incorporate our thesis. We want to incorporate our thesis statement. We want to incorporate the main idea, the issue, all of that stuff. When you wrap that in, is a great way to begin any type of essay, but it's also a great way that we use to also analyze political cartoons. Okay? So don't worry about the amount of lines that they give you there. If you want, you can do this full thing or just make one really complete, coherent, concise sentence about that political cartoon. All right? So we'll give that, go ahead and give that a shot. Can we please have a volunteer to read the historical context of the DBQ?
Contact, whatever. Following World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as rival superpowers. This
Sorry, I'm taking over. She's messing it up.
led to a period known as the Cold War. During the first 15 years of the Cold War, 1945 to 1960, the threat of communism presented many different challenges to the United States.
Okay. Charlie, can you... Charlie,
Yes.
is there any indication of labels or categories that initially the DBQ documents will fall into from historical context?
Yes.
What would that be?
The things that led to the Cold War, what happened in the Cold War, the first 15 years of the Cold War, and the threat that communism presented to the different challenges.
Okay. Those are good answers. It's a very good initial idea. Now read the task box.
Discuss how the threat of communism during the Cold War affected the United States in the period from 1945 to 1960. So you have to find which document.
So from what you said before that, which is the most common one that we're going to look at when we try to build our essay? What phrase is repeated in both?
The threat of communism.
There you go. All right. So when we're looking at the documents, we need to talk about the documents in this main idea, the threat of communism.
You want to start out on a sheet of paper?
On a slice of paper, yes. We're going to take some notes before we start to build this essay. Same thing that we always do. All right, so we know that all of our documents are going to deal with some type of threat of communism. So let's look at document 1. We analyzed this political cartoon on Friday before we left. What threat is this political cartoon illustrating? Everybody look at document 1. We talked about the vulture, we talked about the monkey wrench, we talked about it being a race to Western Europe. What threat, what idea are we overall talking about? What type of threat in this communism? The spread of communism. All right, so now we're going to take a look at some of the other documents and see if that label for one of our paragraphs is going to be a good label. So we have the first threat is the spread of communism. And we're going to do purple. We're going to put document 1 in that. Okay? Now draw a line. Now, does anybody remember what our universal labels are?
Doesn't it mean like
What are the universal labels that all documents, when they talk about something, are going to fit in?
Title,
No, those are the source information.
face, or own pictures.
Those are, yes, those are the types that are going to be there. Does
information?
anybody remember ESP? That when a document talks to
Economic,
us,
social, political.
it's always going to fall in one of those things. Economic, social, political. What's the one that everybody leaves out, but is really more of an idea about social? The R.
Religion.
Religion. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at document 2. Document 2 is 2A and 2B. Remember that when you look at documents and they have A and B, sometimes they don't necessarily talk about the same thing. They're just related in some way. They could actually be saying two different things. So, document 2A. First off, one of the big things we always want to look at is our source information. This is a telegram from the United States Department of State to President Truman in September of 1948. Is there someone that would just like to read the first couple of sentences of this so we can get a good idea? We can start to think about our inference clues as to what this might be talking about. Charlie, go ahead.
The governments of the United States, France, and the United Kingdom, conscious of their obligation under the Charter of the United Nations to settle disputes by peaceful means, took the initiative on July 30th, 1948, in approaching the Soviet government for informational discussions in Moscow in order to explore every possibility of adjusting a dangerous situation which had arisen by reason of measures taken by the Soviet Union government directly challenging the rights of the other occupying powers in Berlin.
Okay, so you guys know from your knowledge, your previous knowledge in Global 10, that at the conclusion of World War II, Germany itself was split into East Germany and West Germany, and Berlin itself was split into East Berlin and West Berlin. Okay? So they're talking about here is this situation that has arisen. The Soviet Union isn't letting the occupying forces of West Berlin supply their forces of West Berlin. If you look down the bottom of this, France and the United States in that city, but also jeopardizing the discharge of those governments of their duties as occupying powers through the threat of starvation, disease, and economic ruin for the population of Berlin. So what they did was form a blockade. And they're not allowing the Allied powers, for lack of a better term, to go to Berlin and supply those forces. So is this about the spread of communism, or is there a different label that can be assigned to this? What are they really attempting to do? Are they doing it yet? Have they started? What are they initiating? I'm going to give you a hint, and we're going to use, since it's red is the universal symbol for communism, since we call...
Why is that the universal symbol?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys remember talking about in Global 10, the first failed Russian Revolution of 1907?
No.
Okay. Because it's a revolution, it's what type of war?
Civil War.
Civil War. So how do you tell the difference? If we're Americans and we're in a civil war, how do we tell the difference
We wore
in a civil war?
colors.
We wore different colors. The blue and the gray were the symbol, but not if you got a military issued thing.
And they were white and red, right?
They were white and red. The ones loyal to the Tsar wore a white sash, and the ones that were revolutionaries wore a red sash, so they could tell who to kill on the battlefield, more or less. That's why they're called the red, and that's why it kind of got adopted for that, the ideas of Bolshevism. So we're going to talk about, in this idea, what are they really seeking to do?
Take over.
Take over by communists. Okay? They're trying to get the rest of Berlin for themselves. That was Mr. Hall. I know my B's look like sixes. We don't need to tell everybody again.
Good times.
Right. Well, here, why is it bad? Why will it always fail? Is actually, but why I'm explaining this to Alora, I want you to tell me whether or not you think both documents belong in takeover by communists, or if we should split them. You and I are at a job, and you, like the person you are in class, you always get your work done. You get there early, you come back early from lunch, and then whatever. Well, in communism, the idea is that we both have the same job, and at the end of 2 weeks, we both get the same paycheck. Now, me, I come in 5 minutes late every day, I HAJ everything.
Okay.
I HAJ everything, and then when I go to lunch, I come back late because let's talk about Russia. I had my 2 martini lunch. And then at the end of the day, I'm the guy like this. Staring at the punch clock, ready to go, 3 o'clock! And I stick it right in and I'm out. And at the end of 2 weeks, we get the same paycheck. It's not fair. There's no incentive for me to do a really good job if I know that the person who's done the great job still getting the same paycheck as me. So let me ask you a question. After a certain amount of time goes along, as you get frustrated, seeing me junk on the job, all kinds of other stuff, after 3 years of this, because remember, no upward mobility, everybody's the same. Everybody's same job, same house, same everything. Are you going to lunch with me having 2 or 3 martinis? Or am I going to come back early with you, eat at my job, and do the best possible job I can?
We're going out for martinis.
You guys are going out for martinis. And how do we know this? When's the last time you turned something over and said, made in Russia, other than the rabbit-lined hats or the galoshes? Or the nesting dolls. Everybody's got those weird things that they sell in airports.
Those are so freaking terrifying.
They're a little weird, the nesting dolls.
Reminds me of cannibalism.
That's a bit odd, but all right. One eats the other, all right, I can see that. Alright, so are both documents 2A and 2B, are they going to fall into takeover, or is one spread, the other takeover? What do you think?
I think that we're all just gonna go to picnics and it's all gonna be okay.
Okay, well that's not where we're at right now.
When you're hungry.
2A, does it fall in the spread of communism now that we have, or does it go into takeover?
Take over.
Okay, are we sure?
Yeah.
No, you're not sure, okay. Now what do we do if we're not sure?
Put a question mark.
We put a question mark next to it. And since we initially had it in the takeover, we're going to do it like that. Now 2B. 2B is the physical defense of what word from 2A? 2B is a chart showing the physical defense, we love charts, of what action taken in 2A. What is the one word that explains why we have 2B? Look at, number the lines on the left or right hand side of the document. And if you go from the bottom, count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go to the 5th line from the bottom of document 2A. What one word explains this physical action?
Blockade.
Blockade. So where does 2B fall? It's a physical action. It's not ideas. Takeover. So 2B, 2A we might have a question mark, but 2B, word. Let's go to document 3. NATO. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Document 3. Somebody want to read at least half like Charlie did before?
Sure.
So give us an indication of where we think this is.
NATO is simply a necessity. That's how I want to say it. The developing situation with the Soviet Union demanded that participation of the United States in the defense of Western Europe.
Stop. What does that indicate to us? Developing situation.
Things are going to be worse.
Does that mean it happened yet?
Yeah.
It's happening.
So we're talking about what, Jesus? We're talking about the spread of communism. Put now, is there anybody that disagrees with that?
NATO.
Okay. Let's look at document 4. Initial newspaper stories concerning Senator McCarthy's. Now, by the way, how many people remember from last year Senator McCarthy and McCarthyism? What was it? It was the hunt for communists where? In America. For instant extra credit, does anybody remember what the term HUAC stood for? It's an acronym. It was something you were supposed to learn last year in dealing with McCarthyism. Alright, so HUAC stood for the House Un-American Activities Committee. Okay, so in this class we talk about how either senators or representatives make up committees, and those committees introduce policy that will eventually, maybe or maybe not, become a law. How a bill becomes a law, you know, the old, the thing on Schoolhouse Rock. So in this one, what are we concerned about? We're talking about, I know personally already, I have in my hand 57 cases of individuals who would appear to be either card-carrying members or certainly loyal to the Communist Party, but who nevertheless are still helping to shape our foreign policy. What are they talking about? Is this spread or takeover?
Spread.
Really? They're already there. They're shaping our foreign policy. They're trying to take us over. That's okay. You don't agree? That's fine. We're going to put 4, and we'll put a question mark next to it. And we'll go over here. And you think it's spread? Okay. And we'll put a question mark next to it. Remember, don't think that you have to know right away where they're going to fall. If you're unsure, leave the question marks. Question marks only mean that we're going to revisit it and reevaluate it. Okay? Let's look at document 5. We're not going to read this. I want somebody to read it quickly, scan it, rescan it, do whatever you got to do. Tell me where you think it falls.
Korea.
Oh my God, no.
That's the place in the world. Hopefully we know it's its own country. And Korea, as its own country, no longer exists. It's split into North and South today.
What are we looking for?
Take over.
Is it? I don't know.
Chinese government.
I don't know.
I'm confused on it.
Thing.
You're confused.
That communism has passed beyond the use of the subversion to conquer independent nations that will now use the armed invasion and war.
No, the 7th Fleet.
What does armed invasion and war mean?
Communist
Takeover. There you go.
Blood and iron.
You figured it out on your own. You're not confused anymore because you looked again at the information that they provide for us. Now let's look at document 6. B, please read 6B or tell us, does it look like it belongs in either of those categories? Those labels.
Atomic attack. About.
Oh, atomic attack.
Let's take over
Yeah.
now.
Takeover, spread, or do we call it something else? What would we call it if we wanted to call it something else?
I don't think they're either.
What type of threat is this?
Foreign.
No.
Bombs.
Nuclear threat.
This is the nuclear threat. Remember, the end of World War II, there's only 2 people with the ability to produce nuclear or atomic weapons. So we got 6A and 6B. Now let's look at 7. So we got the air raid siren and all that. Again, we're thinking of and looking at this nuclear attack threat.
Oh my God.
Now look at document 8. What does this show us? Now in general there's 10 documents here because we have 2 that are split. What do we always know the Regents is going to try to do with its documents?
Two categories.
They're going to do 2 or 3 categories, but they're also going to do what inside those labels or categories? What are they always going to do?
Trick you?
No, trick sometimes in how they word multiple choice questions, but not in this. What are they always going to do? What do you see up here?
But like almost an equal amount.
They're going to balance the documents.
I'm so happy.
You're not going to have 7 documents in the spread of communism, 2 in takeover, and 1 in nuclear. It's going to try to balance out. So that's why, even if we were to do this, and take all the documents that we have a question about, it's still going to relatively balance with the ones that we absolutely know. So let's take that really long one and just throw that one out one initially, because you know that's what you're going to do on the Regents, even though that's not good enough for my class. Use all the documents you possibly can. Once you go back and look at the documents that have question marks next to them, and you still can't figure out where they go, those are the only ones you throw out. Document 8 might be the best source of information in the entire thing, but you're lazy and you don't want to read it. You gotta force yourself to read it. figure out where it goes. If you still can't figure out where it goes, then that's the only reason to throw them out. Because we had a lack of production over the weekend. All right, everybody draw this.
What's that?
Everybody draw this. We're now going to break down
Get down,
the chart. And this is what you're going to do for homework. This is the easy one, you know. We're going to do, first homework I want from you tonight is to read document 8 and put it in the chart where you think it goes. I'm giving you a hint. We're doing the one tonight for homework that it's not going to fall in. Okay? So we're going to do
I want to make a stupid film.
and we know, or the nuclear thread is probably a better way to say it. All of these documents talk about the nuclear threat. So we know that when we start to develop our paragraph, we're going to be using these 3 documents. 6A, 6B, and 7. Okay? And what I want you to do tonight is do what we've done in the past. What are the pieces of information, even in the most arguable, the most interpretive documents, what elements cannot be argued other than to say, liar, liar, pants on fire?
The date.
There we go. Date. Author. Title. And what's this over here? The type of document. Well, why is that important? Well, if you're using the universal, it's always if it's written, it's a text or it's an excerpt. However, you could have different type of text-based articles. You could have a song. You could have a speech. You could have a poem. All different kinds. The same thing, instead of saying, well, this art-based document, you might want to be more specific. This piece of architecture, this photo. It helps for us to lay out our paragraph more. Document 6A. First off, what type is it? It's text-based, so the universal is to say that it's an excerpt. We know the author is
President Dwight Eisenhower.
President Eisenhower. We're just going to put, to make it faster,
Can you not?
we're going to put Ike down.
Ike.
Okay, that was his nickname.
Oh, Ike. Mike and Ike.
It was a message.
There's no title.
Mike and Ike.
That would be what? An
Message.
address or a speech?
Message to Congress.
Message.
That's the type, okay, message to Congress.
February.
Message to Congress.
February 22nd, 2005. Do we have
No.
Go to the
All right, let's go to 6B. 6B we know is from the same person. It's an excerpt
Oh, we got stuff.
from President Eisenhower in his message to Congress.
Can you just put the same thing for that one?
You can. And it's the same thing, 1955.
I feel like that they were working.
Adapted, so.
Yes, it means that, adapted means they took stuff out that they didn't use. Okay. Does anybody know the official term for what the government uses when you have the giant black marks and giant black all over documents so that you can't read it?
Classified.
They are classified, which is why these black marks are there, where they take out names, they take things that are categorized above classified, maybe top secret, or if we're doing James Bond, for your eyes only kind of thing.
But what if
It is kind of censorship. The official term is called redacting. Okay?
Pterodactyl.
Redacting. No, not pterodactyl.
Was there the information
How do you spell
Yes.
that word?
R-E-D-A-C-A-T-I-N-G. All right, document 7. Well, what is document 7?
Argument 7.
Could you please?
You out?
You're not a Neanderthal. You can wait till you finish chewing.
Is an excerpt or what?
It is an excerpt again.
Is that like a text?
Yeah,
Yes, it's a text article. Who is our author of this?
Annie Dillard.
Who?
Annie Dillard.
Annie Dillard. A. Dillard. What is the title of the work? Guys, please stop the secondary conversations.
An American Childhood.
An American Childhood.
They didn't have a date.
That's fine. If it doesn't have one, what do we do?
Leave a blank.
We leave it blank, or we put an X. It doesn't have.
Exodus.
It doesn't have a thing. All right, now let's go all the way to the bottom. Let's look at our task box. How do we turn? Get off the phone. How do we turn the task box into our thesis statement? What do we have to do first? That we're building this entire essay.
Take out the two first
out.
words.
We're taking out the ones that make it a question, or ones that. Now they don't give us a question. Remember, that's the bad part about these modern DBQs. They no longer give you a question. They ask you to discuss. No. You take those questioning or whatever words, conversational words, out of it.
So we take out, discuss how, and then your whole thing is the threat of communism during the Cold War by the United States.
You could put that, and that's easy. What else could you do? Go ahead, Kelly.
Also the two authors.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
Use a date.
You can, yes, alter the time period because they give us both things. They give us a label for the time period and they identify the label with also numbers. So they're trying to show that it's the early part, as we saw in the historical context, of the Cold War. But we're going to start with what Charlie said, and we're going to do this as our thesis statement, okay? The threat of communism during the Cold War affected we're going to reduce United States Okay. Now, let's go back over here. This is why we did that. When we do this in class, now we're going to get into creating our first sentence to this body paragraph that is going to drive our essay. So we're going to take that task, manipulate it into the thesis statement, and imagine that that's right here. Okay? And we want to choose some information from here that's going to let the reader know exactly how we're going to begin and what we're going to be doing in this paragraph built on this. So if you picture this right here, this is where we're at. And what Mr. Hall, or what we worked on from the beginning of the year, is that we're going to work in reverse.
Wait, what does that say between the arrows?
The task, thesis statement.
Oh, thesis.
So this, just imagine it's at the bottom, but I don't feel like kneeling down and writing it over there. Okay. So first off, how do we manipulate this to talk about that? What is the easiest thing for us to eliminate? Something we don't need to repeat. What do we not need to repeat from our information here that is already in our thesis statement? Well, we're going to get to the threat in communism. We're going to talk about the nuclear threat. So we're going to have to manipulate that a little bit. What is the easiest thing to see that we've already incorporated? The dates. So we're not going to use this, not that we couldn't, but it doesn't make sense. Okay? It doesn't make sense to use that. So we're going to eliminate that. So now we're going to concentrate on these things. There's 3 documents here. You know that you don't have to use, put the toiletries away. You know that you don't have to use everything, but you want to, again, let the reader know that there's a lot of things in common. And what is the most obvious thing in common there?
Congress.
This is the most obvious thing there. Can we use this down here? Yes. So, what is the first thing that we need to address? Now we have to manipulate this to incorporate some of that information, let our reader know. Pilar already told us. We have to talk about the nuclear threat.
I did.
Yes, you said it before. Or was it you, Neville?
It was probably
Really? We want to talk about the nuclear threat, okay? And we're going to talk about what individual shows us or talks to Congress about the nuclear threat. Guys, it's right there in a circle. We've done this,
President
I don't know how many
Eisenhower.
times. President Eisenhower. President Ike we have up there because it's easier.
Shorter to right.
Okay? So where would we want to put that in? In the thesis statement to talk about that.
Wouldn't it be also the topics? But like, because like the thesis statement will have like basically both the authors, right? And then the
This is not the thesis statement anymore. We're trying to manipulate the thesis statement to create the first sentence
all to the topic.
of our body paragraph.
Oh yes, we'll put present.
And the method is
Okay? Where would you put that?
Would you take out the U?
How do you manipulate this to incorporate that stuff?
What's it?
All right, Mr. Hall's going to manipulate it a little bit for you. The nuclear threat of communism during the Cold War is addressed by
Be specific.
President Mike and I.
U.S.
Look at your nostrils.
U.S. President.
Eisenhower.
You could spit someone's head in there.
How do you spell Eisenhower, guys?
ISEN.
It's on the thing. Stop trying to make it.
E-I.
No, I actually know how to spell it.
No, that's wrong.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
S-E-N.
S-E-N.
Oh, S-E-N.
H-O-W.
I did say that right, didn't I?
No.
What did I say?
I don't even know. You think you're way off.
Okay. We're going to move this.
No, I don't have one.
That's okay.
We starting to make more sense now?
Yeah. I want to say that. During the Cold War.
The nuclear threat of communism is addressed by U.S. President Eisenhower during the Cold War period from 1945 to 1960.
Is it okay if I say mine, so just in case, like, if that's okay?
What? Remember, everybody's going to manipulate it different. This is just an example. Okay? We took these two parts right here to illustrate to the reader what we're about to do in our body paragraph. Okay? You guys can use any of these things. You can talk about excerpts from A. Dillard and President Eisenhower explaining the effects of the United States from the Cold War. Everybody writes differently, and how you manipulate the source information to get a first sentence to the body paragraph is different because we all write differently.
Yeah.
This is just an example of us working together. What do we kind of show right now? We're not working together that great. Now that we have this way that we just did together, try your own again. Try your own again. What are other ways that we can do this? By using the same idea. We're taking different elements of source information, mixing them with our thesis statement to create a good, somewhat academic, first sentence to the body paragraph about the nuclear threat of communism. Okay? This is a different one, and it still incorporates all the stuff we need to know. Do we still need the time period in numbers? No, we've addressed it in a label. This is the distinctive label. In your thing, you can talk specifically, in your paragraph, you can talk specifically about the year 1955 or those other years, 1945 to 1960. You don't have to incorporate every little piece of information, because then you're going to have that old thing you learned in 4th grade called the run-on sentence. But this it's kind of a long sentence, but it's very informative, and it's already setting up the reader less likely to argue with you when you start to address the documents and the information inside them inside the paragraph. Go to the other ones. We have the spread of communism, and you have communist takeover. Okay? I want you to box them out to, well, whatever you call it. Break down the chart for them as well. Okay?